Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Kris. This is part 3, Secrets of Lincoln's Tomb, Memorial for the Ages, 1901. This was when... Is this one? No. No, don't listen to me. But before I get started, click on that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously. I'm going to see what other videos this guy has because I really like this video. Lincoln's Final Homecoming. Ooh, that'd be a good one. The Unbelievable Journey. Let's just watch that one instead. No, I'm kidding. All right. Thumbs up, subscribe. You can donate to the channel through the thanks button. Request a video. Your name sponsors the video. All right. Let's get into it.
In 1895, the National Lincoln Monument Association transferred title of the tomb over to the state of Illinois. An inspection of the structure found significant deterioration a mere 21 years after it was completed. Much of the damage was due to the improper construction of the tomb's foundation, which was only 6 feet deep. Faced with a tomb that was dangerously weak and slowly sinking into the earth, Illinois Governor John Tanner received a $100,000 emergency appropriation to make the necessary repairs. Work began in 1899, but first Lincoln's coffin was moved from its hidden location within the tomb where it had resided for almost a quarter of a century. Then the crypts containing the remains of Mary, Edward, William, and Thomas were cleared.
For anyone, I don't know if I said this in the earlier videos, but for anyone who's never been there, you round this corner and then you stop and you see, Lincoln. I'm phasing. You see Lincoln, the thing in front of you. I don't know what it is. I keep calling it a headstone, but it's just a big marker, and it's like Abraham Lincoln and 1801, 1865. I almost said 1965. But behind him in the walls is where. Why can I never think Mary Todd Lincoln. Wow. I keep thinking Sarah. Behind is Mary Todd, and that's where all the children except for Robert, which I already said he's buried in. And why can't I not think of that? Getting old sucks.
There was also Abraham Lincoln's grandson and namesake, or Jack as his family called him. Jack was the second child and only son of Robert Lincoln. Described as unpretentious and intelligent, he possessed many of his grandfather's traits. He was also an athletic boy who enjoyed baseball and riding his penny-farthing bicycle. In 1889, he moved to London with his family while his father served as ambassador to the court of St. James. That November, he underwent minor surgery to remove a boil that became infected. Jack never fully recovered and died in March 1890 at age 18. His body was returned to America and placed in the Lincoln tomb, where it remained until after his father's death in 1926. He was then moved to Arlington National Cemetery and placed at his side.
Arlington. That's where Robert is.
The 6 coffins were relocated to a temporary underground vault constructed a few feet away from the tomb.
That kind of sucks when you think about it. 21 years. That's all this thing lasted before it started falling apart. 21 years. That's ridiculous. Now I know, and I'm not blaming anyone. You think I could do better? No, it'd have probably lasted 19 years. What are you thinking to trust me with that? But with his body moving so much and the threat of a grave robbery, I could understand why they were in a hurry to make it. But if you're making it, just make it right. You can always secure the body with soldiers and all that. Like I understand that, but just if you're going to dig it 6 feet, and instead the normal is 10. You've got all the equipment there. Just do it right. But I understand the hurry. But I also don't understand the hurry. You know what I mean?
Concrete slabs were placed over the opening along with other debris to hide them from view. Once they were safely secure, construction on the tomb began. The massive obelisk was dismantled and the granite exterior stripped away, exposing the brickwork. Larkin Meade's statues were removed and stored unceremoniously behind a crudely built fence that almost comically warned the curious to keep out. Then a new foundation was laid into the bedrock 23 feet deep, and the obelisk was rebuilt. Only now it was increased in size to an overall height of 117 feet. With the tomb securely reassembled and no longer in danger of sinking, all that remained was to return the bodies to their permanent resting places. In April 1901, the temporary vault was opened, and one by one the coffins removed. First were Lincoln's children, and then his wife. As the somber work continued, crowds of onlookers dressed in their Sunday best began collecting at the site. Many of them knew the martyred president in life, like Josephine Edwards, who was Mary Lincoln's niece by marriage. When she was a child, Lincoln called her Little Josie and carried her about the neighborhood on his shoulders. Then, as the sun began to set, the shadows of two anonymous workers fell across the final casket. After securing the hook to the ropes, the crane operator slowly lifted Abraham Lincoln's mortal remains out of the ground. The onlookers watched as the pine box swung into the air. Their voices fell silent as the weight of what they were witnessing settled upon them. When the box was gently lowered to the ground just outside the tomb's entrance, the workmen began disassembling the pine crate, exposing the coffin within. Then all at once everyone removed their hats and bowed their heads. There were muffled sobs and whispered prayers as nearly everyone wiped tears from their eyes. Finally, the workmen carried Abraham Lincoln's coffin into the tomb and placed it back in its marble sarcophagus. As the sun sank deeper into the west, the crowds went away, leaving the men to finish their work without distraction. The following month...
Can you imagine just being there in that moment? And you're with everyone else, you know? Because that's the closest, in a way. I mean, I've been to the tomb, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. But you don't feel that close in that moment. It just, I don't know. Something about that just kind of gets me. It's the respect that they were all showing. It's a really good picture. It's a really good picture.
Robert arrived at the tomb to survey the work. However, he was displeased over the security precautions that were in place, that consisted only of a burglar alarm connected to the custodian's house standing adjacent to the tomb. The failed attempt to steal his father's remains still weighed heavily on his mind. He worried that a more competent set of thieves than the last ones might actually be able to pull it off. Perhaps inspired by James Conkling's claims of having encased President Lincoln's coffin in cement, Robert ordered that it be done, and forever put him beyond reach of grave robbers. It was a shock to some, but the son's wishes were final.
Just to say, Robert, so Lincoln won the presidency and left, and that was the last time he ever stayed at the house. There's a point to this. I'll come back to it, trust me. So Lincoln was never able to, clearly, visit the home again, the home that he loved, and that was where he wanted to come back and retire to. Mary Todd came back to Springfield, and she refused to live there because it was just memories of him. I get it. You know, hey, we all mourn differently, completely understand. Robert took possession of the house, and I want to say it was leased out. And a couple of people that leased it were not good. And kind of, yeah. Robert took possession. I think he had to do some fixes here and there. And then he sold it to the state of Illinois for $1 and told them that for the tours of the home, you can never, it was sold to the parks, the National Parks Service, the Park Service, and sold for $1 and told them that every tour is free because I'm doing this. And my point coming back to it now is because my guess is that they honored his wishes. One, he was the son, but two, because he sold the home, all the stuff that's in there is legit theirs. He even brought stuff back. So my guess is they're honoring his wishes because in the end, he's done so much in terms of, allowing access to the home, people to come and pay their respects and visit and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if that is why they did it, because in the end, and look, he also did serve the country, Secretary of State and stuff like that. So, you respecting him as well. But I think that probably, this is my guess. It just goes, a little extra for him. Plus, I mean, look, it's the president. There was a grave robbing attempt. I get it.
In September of that year, his orders were carried out, but not before his father's remains were viewed one last time by dignitaries, including young Fleetwood Lindley, who recalled the moment for Life magazine 6 decades later. With their monumental task complete, everyone believed that the tomb and its occupants would forever be undisturbed. But that wouldn't be the case. As the 20th century progressed, the generation who
Do I not know about another robbery?
had known the living Lincoln had all but passed away. They were the ones who had molded, shaped, and consecrated a humble prairie rail splitter into an American messiah. Although his memory would pass down through the ages unsullied by time, the temples built to him would not. By the centennial of his birth, over 1 million people had visited his tomb, and over 1 million...
Sorry, I'm going to go back. But remember what I was saying? See how the nose is discolored? That's because the acidity from people's hands get on that bronze statue and discolor it. But everyone who shows up, and I am no different, before I go in there, I rub the nose. Or if I go in, I walk all the way around, I come out, I'll take a picture, I rub the nose. Why? I have no idea. It just is. It just happens.
More would follow in the subsequent 2 decades. As years passed, people began to remark about the tomb's shabby appearance and musty odor. There were complaints that some of the Lincoln exhibits in the Memorial Hall were tacky and had nothing to do with the Civil War president.
That's not even there that I know of. So I wish it was there. Yeah, it's not.
Many of the artifacts belonged to Herbert Wells Fay, the tomb's custodian since 1921. An inveterate collector, Fay was known as the man of 1 million relics. Visitors noted that his light-hearted lectures lacked dignity and were compared to the babblings of a sideshow barker. But most found Fay's enthusiasm and love of Lincoln to be infectious, and in Springfield he was seen as an institution. After his death in 1949, he was laid to rest at Oak Ridge Cemetery in full view of the tomb he cherished. By 1928, the tomb was in a state of serious deterioration, and it became evident that it would need another major refurbishment. Once again, heavy equipment rolled into the peaceful surroundings of Oak Ridge Cemetery, repeating what was done at the...
I apologize. Illinois, we really dropped the ball on this, didn't we? I mean, this is sad. George Washington's tomb was built by his family in like 1831, minus a few restorations here and there. It is virtually the same. And here we have better technology and all this stuff, and we can't do it right. We didn't do it right the first time. We fixed it the second time. And that held true for what? This is in the 50s, did it say? And the last one was... So we only went another 50 years? Well, it's a bit of a sore spot for me.
Surroundings of Oak Ridge Cemetery. Repeating what was done at the turn of the century, cranes removed the statuary one at a time. Here, the unseated Lincoln stands at the foot of his monument. Then scaffolding was raised in order to take down the towering obelisk, block by block. The bodies of Mary Lincoln and the children were quietly relocated to the Oak Ridge Abbey Mausoleum, where they were kept in unmarked crypts. Abraham Lincoln's coffin, still encased in cement, would remain in place at the tomb while construction continued. Aside from improvements to prevent water leakage, the most significant change was made to the tomb's interior. The catacomb containing Lincoln's sarcophagus was enlarged to permit visitors to pass through the interior instead of viewing it from the outside as before.
Yeah, so we can't walk in there now. And I pointed out before there was a on the outside there was a door that had a little chair in front of it. That would be the door. It's a very crude drawing, but you understand. Yeah, now he belongs to the ages. Supposedly what Edwin Stanton, great last name, his Secretary of War said. But yeah, you can't walk through there. Now you just kind of walk in front. It's kind of roped off. But
the marble sarcophagus that had remained empty since the attempted theft of Lincoln's body in 1876 was replaced with an enormous cenotaph made of red Arkansas marble. Having served its purpose, the sarcophagus was moved outside of the tomb, where it was chipped away by relic hunters. Its fate is uncertain, but it is assumed that it was destroyed to prevent further desecration. On June 17, 1931, President Herbert Hoover rededicated the tomb, calling it a shrine to...
I'm sorry. 1931? My apologies. I thought it was 50. So we went less years because Hoover was before FDR. So we only went 30 years instead of 50.
Their desecration. On June 17, 1931, President Herbert Hoover rededicated the tomb, calling it a shrine to all Americans. Construction had lasted more than a year and cost the state of Illinois $175,000.
For anyone interested, that is Hoover right there, the 31st president. Born and raised, and is buried at West Branch, Iowa, which is about 3 hours away from me. And Lincoln's 2 hours away, so there's some closeness in a way, but Republican as well. But Hoover's buried at his property. Has nothing to do with Hoover, I understand, but he's on screen. Him and his wife are buried kind of on this hill, and I call them pine trees. I don't know the actual names of them, but they're all in rows, and all they're there to do is just to kind of make this look more serene, because behind it is like a cornfield. And so it just kind of gives you something to make you feel like you're not out in the middle of a field in a small town. But if you're standing at his grave and you turn around, you'll see this open field, and you'll see this row of trees. And there's trees, and then a clearing of no trees. Tree. And you'll see the back of his house. And he set it up that way. He wanted an unobstructed view from the cradle to the grave. And his house, by the way, could fit in a standard, like, one stall garage. If you were standing at the front door and as an adult man, full size adult man, you need the size to understand. 3 big, like, you just stand there and take a big step forward, and then another big step forward, and a big step forward. I think it's 3 or 4 big steps like that, and you went from the front door to the back door. Like, you just walked through the entire house. It was a very tiny house. Very tiny house.
After the ceremony was done, the public got its first look at the Lincoln tomb we see today. Welcoming visitors at the tomb is Gutzon Borglum's bust of a young beardless Lincoln that was added in 1931. The work is a copy of an original which is housed in the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. It has become tradition for visitors to touch Lincoln's nose for good luck.
Also, when you go inside, there is the statue from the, I almost said Lincoln, not the Lincoln Museum. In D.C., the Lincoln thing. Words are not flowing to me. And it's, it's, everyone understands. It's him sitting in the chair, Big statue. The original bust of that, when you walk through that door, it's funny, when you walk through the door, standing off to the right is a parks person, and every time somebody walks through, they click this little device to keep track of how many people come in. Click, 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 click. Not a song, but you understand, that's how they keep track. One person. That's all you do. You can't talk to them because they gotta. That's it. But that they're like standing off over here. But when you walk in, standing in the center of this main little lobby, concourse, whatever you want to call it, is the sculpture of that. And it's not super big. It's 3 feet tall, a couple feet wide, but it sits on there. And that was the original bust that was made. And then from there, they made the giant statue at the Washington Monument, at the Lincoln Monument, you dummy.
Thousands of hands have rubbed the finish to a high luster that gleams in the sunlight. At the base of the obelisk are Larkin Meade's 4 group sculptures honoring the branches of the military that fought in the Civil War. The first is an infantry scene showing an officer carrying a flag as he leads his men forward into battle. At the southeast corner of the obelisk is the cavalry group. Here, a riderless horse rears in terror while a soldier supports his dying comrade who was thrown from his mount. On the northwest pedestal is the artillery group. Here, a commanding officer climbs over a damaged gun, raising his saber while his men react to the advancing enemy. The last is the Navy group, depicting a scene on a gunboat. A gunner has rolled up a shell for firing as a powder monkey climbs atop a mortar. To one side, an officer raises his telescope to assess the target. It is worth noting that these statues do not romanticize the war, and in fact show the terror and sacrifice made by those who had borne the battle. Finally, we come to the statue of Abraham Lincoln, who holds in his hand a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation. On the pedestal below is the coat of arms of the United States of America. Above the tomb's entrance is a plaque with the text of the Gettysburg Address. In the center of...
I've seen that. I've never paid attention to it.
The rotunda is Daniel Chester French's
Yeah.
bronze miniature of the seated Lincoln from the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so it's bigger than 4 feet. My bad. I was just thinking this, which is not as big, but the whole thing is decent size.
Originally, the rotunda was separated from the burial chamber by unused passageways. Today, they are joined by two marble corridors displaying statuary representing the life and career of the great emancipator. The first sculpture is titled The Soldier by Leonard Crenell. It shows Lincoln during the Black Hawk War of 1832. It is a copy of an original full-size statue in Dixon, Illinois. Next is the Ranger, the first of two equestrian statues by Fred Torrey.
I've been to Dixon, Illinois. That is where Ronald Reagan's boyhood home is. He wasn't born there. He was born in Tampico, Illinois, which is not too far away, but, far enough. And side note, Dixon has a really cool, almost like a St. Louis arch, the center of town you drive through. It's not like massive, but it's just a big thing. I think it says Dixon. It might have two swords crossed. It's pretty cool. I'm going to hit this button now, and we're going to start it. I'm actually going to hit it. There we go.
It depicts Lincoln during the 80 days he served in the Black Hawk War. The second Torrey creation is called the Circuit Rider. It shows Lincoln as a lawyer traveling on horseback along the 450-mile-long 8th Judicial Circuit, which he rode twice a year. Just outside of the sarcophagus chamber is the Augustus St. Gaudens masterpiece of Lincoln rising to speak. The original stands in Chicago, where it was unveiled by Lincoln's grandson in 1887. Here, too, is a plaque with the text of the farewell speech Lincoln gave when he departed Springfield to become President of the United States. In the opposite corridor is the seated Centennial statue sculpted by Adolph A. Weinman. The original is located near Lincoln's birthplace in Hodgenville, Kentucky, and was dedicated by Robert Lincoln in 1909. Beyond that is Lincoln the Debater by Leonard Crenell. The original is located in Freeport, Illinois, and was dedicated in 1929. It shows Lincoln waiting to answer a question posed by Stephen Douglas during their famous debates. Notice how the skirt of Lincoln's frock coat appears to be blown by a wind at his back, suggesting he is on the side of righteousness.
There's a place, several places around here where Lincoln Douglas debates took place. And one of them, courthouse, not too far from me. They have a monument out there in front of the courthouse that says this is where not gallows was erected. This is where the platform was erected and where they spoke on it. And they always say that Lincoln came from this way on a horse and carriage, and had their debate. Had a few of them. One in Galesburg. Galesburg, Toulon. Did they have one in Pekin? I don't remember. Side note, Galesburg is like 4 or 5 miles away from Monmouth, Illinois, which is the hometown of Wyatt Earp. Side note.
Next is Lincoln the Lawyer by Laredo Taft, showing Lincoln arguing a case in court. The original stands in Urbana, Illinois, which was a frequent stop for him on the judicial circuit.
By the way, there is a Lincoln, Illinois. I'm not going to tell you who it's named after. You can get that on your own. But when these people said, we want to incorporate and become a town, they hired him. And so he showed up, did all the paperwork, and said, okay, now what's the name? And they were like, oh, well, we didn't get that far. We never really thought about it. And he's like, well, we kind of need a name to put on here for it. And they were like, okay, it's your name, Lincoln. And he was like, all right, it's kind of weird, but okay. Yeah, I'll do it. He did it.
The final sculpture is by Daniel Chester French. In addition to his epic statue in the Lincoln Memorial, French created this work of the emancipator as he is about to deliver the Gettysburg Address. The original stands outside the State House in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Why would it stand outside of Lincoln, Nebraska? The Gettysburg Address? Wouldn't that be in Gettysburg? Or just Lincoln, Nebraska decided to make one? You know what I mean? But hey.
At the apex of the two corridors is the sarcophagus chamber. It contains the crypts of Mary Lincoln and 3 of her 4 sons.
Oh, just so young.
The tomb was designed with space for Robert Lincoln and his family. However, he chose to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh, yeah. And if you notice, they screwed this one up. There's a 4 and a 3 there. They screwed up the birth.
However, he chose to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Opposite the crypts are flags representing the 7 states in which Lincoln's family lived from the time of their arrival in America until his death. The flags of the United States and President are also displayed. The burial chamber is dominated by a red marble cenotaph inscribed Abraham Lincoln, 1809-1865. Lincoln's body does not lie within or directly below this massive stone. He rests in his concrete vault 10 feet below the floor and 6 feet from the north wall with his head to the west. Above this monument, inscribed within the black marble, are the immortal words spoken by Edwin Stanton at Lincoln's deathbed. Now he belongs to the ages.
I feel like I'm getting choked up right now. This is a great video. Wow. Well, I'm going to be going there on Saturday. This video will be released after. Unfortunately, I wanted to release the first part today to lead up to it, but it just didn't work out that way. Wow, I feel like I could let some old some eyeball juice run down the face because I'm getting choked up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. I think it was just the kids that got me. I don't know. Now I want to read another Lincoln book. I got a lot of them. I have a bunch of Lincoln books. Anyways, I'm gonna end it here. Hope you enjoyed. Till next time, have a good day. Have a good night.